The rules around driving licenses in the United Kingdom have been going through some of the most significant changes in decades, and if you hold a UK driving license or are planning to get one, this is information you genuinely cannot afford to miss. Whether you have been driving for 30 years or you just passed your test last month, these changes affect you directly, and understanding them could save you from fines, penalty points, or even losing your license altogether. Let us start with one of the biggest shifts that has been making headlines across the country. The rules around driving licenses and age thresholds have been quietly updated in ways that many drivers simply are not aware of. For years, the system worked in a fairly straightforward way. You passed your test, you got your license, and as long as you renewed it every 10 years and followed the rules of the road, you were largely left alone. But that system is now evolving, and the changes are more sweeping than most people realize. One of the first things drivers need to understand is the change in medical reporting requirements. The DVLA has been strengthening its rules around medical conditions and driving. If you develop a medical condition that could affect your ability to drive safely, you are legally required to report it to the DVLA. This has always been the rule, but enforcement and awareness around this obligation have increased significantly. Conditions ranging from epilepsy and diabetes to sleep apnea and vision problems all fall under this requirement. The list of notifiable conditions has also been reviewed and updated, meaning conditions that were not previously considered relevant to driving safety are now on the radar of the DVLA. What many drivers do not realize is that failing to report a medical condition is not just a bureaucratic oversight. It is a criminal offense. You can be fined up to £1,000 if you drive against medical advice or fail to inform the DVLA of a condition that affects your fitness to drive. Beyond the financial penalty, if you are involved in an accident and it comes to light that you had an unreported condition, your insurance could be void. That is a situation nobody wants to find themselves in, so understanding your responsibilities here is absolutely critical. Now let us talk about the changes surrounding older drivers, because this is an area where the rules have become considerably more structured. Drivers over the age of 70 have always been required to renew their license every 3 years rather than every 10, and they must confirm their fitness to drive each time. But what is changing is the level of scrutiny being applied to these renewals. The government has been working on frameworks that involve more detailed medical assessments for older drivers, recognizing that age-related conditions can develop gradually and may not always be self-reported accurately. There has also been discussion and movement around the idea of mandatory eyesight testing for older drivers. At present, drivers are required to be able to read a number plate from 20 meters, and while this standard has been in place for years, the way it is being applied and checked is under review. Proposals have been put forward that would require formal eyesight tests at certain age thresholds, going beyond the number plate check that currently exists. This represents a meaningful shift in how the UK approaches road safety for older road users, and while not all these proposals have been fully implemented yet, drivers should be aware that the landscape is changing and more stringent requirements are likely coming. For younger drivers, the changes are equally significant. The rules around learner drivers and newly qualified drivers have been updated in ways designed to improve road safety during what is statistically the most dangerous period of driving. Young drivers between the ages of 17 and 25 are disproportionately represented in accident statistics, and the government has been responding to this with policy changes that aim to address the problem directly. One of the key areas of change involves graduated driving licenses. The concept of a graduated driving license system has been debated in the UK for years, and we are now seeing elements of this approach being introduced. A graduated system essentially means that newly qualified drivers face certain restrictions during an initial period after passing their test. These restrictions can include limits on the hours during which they can drive, restrictions on carrying passengers of a similar age, and lower drink-drive limits. The idea is that new drivers build up their experience gradually under controlled conditions before they have full unrestricted access to the roads. The drink-drive limit is another area where changes have been discussed and in some cases implemented. While England, Wales, and Northern Ireland maintain a blood alcohol limit of 80 mg per 100 millilitres of blood, Scotland lowered its limit to 50 mg several years ago. There has been sustained pressure to bring the rest of the UK in line with Scotland and with much of Europe, where lower limits are standard. For newly qualified drivers, a near-zero limit has been proposed and is being taken seriously by policymakers, meaning even a small amount of alcohol could result in disqualification. The rules around using a mobile phone while driving have also been significantly tightened in recent years, and this connects directly to your driving license in terms of penalty points. Since 2022, the law was strengthened so that any use of a handheld mobile phone while driving is illegal, closing a loophole that previously made it difficult to prosecute drivers who were scrolling through music or taking photos but not actually making a call. The penalty for this offence is 6 penalty points and a £200 fine. For drivers who passed their test less than 2 years ago, 6 penalty points mean an automatic revocation of their licence. They do not get a warning. They do not get a reduced penalty. Their licence is taken away and they have to start the whole process again from scratch. This brings us to the point system more broadly, because understanding how penalty points work and how they interact with license changes is something every driver should have a firm grip on. You accumulate penalty points for various offences, and they stay on your license for either 4 or 11 years depending on the nature of the offence. If you reach 12 points, you face disqualification under what is known as the totting up procedure. However, a court can disqualify you even before you reach 12 points if it considers your driving to be particularly dangerous. And for new drivers, that automatic revocation kicks in at just 6 points, which means a single serious offence or 2 minor ones can end your driving privileges before they have properly begun. The DVLA has also been updating the rules around what happens when your licence is revoked or disqualified. In the past, the process of getting your license back after disqualification could be somewhat opaque. The rules have been clarified and in some areas tightened. If you are disqualified for more than 2 years, you have to retake your test. If you are disqualified for drink driving offences, you may be required to complete a rehabilitation course before your license is restored, and in some cases, you may need to satisfy a medical assessment before you are considered fit to drive again. Let us also address the changes around international driving licenses and what they mean for people who hold or use foreign licenses in the UK. Following Brexit, the rules around recognising licenses from European Union countries changed significantly. EU and EEA licence holders can currently drive in the UK on their foreign licence, but the rules around exchanging those licenses for UK ones and the timelines involved have shifted. If you move to the UK from an EU country and have been using your EU licence, you need to understand the current rules around exchange before your entitlement to drive runs out. For licence holders from countries outside the EU, the picture is even more varied. Some countries have reciprocal agreements with the UK that allow licence holders to exchange their foreign licence for a UK one without taking a test. Others do not, meaning drivers must go through the full UK testing process. The list of countries with exchange agreements has been updated, and if you are driving in the UK on a foreign licence, checking whether your country of issue is on the current reciprocal list is something you should do as a priority. Digital driving licenses are another development worth paying close attention to. The government has been moving toward a digital ID system, and driving licenses are part of that conversation. While the physical photocard license is still the standard, work is underway on digital versions that would allow drivers to prove their identity and their driving entitlement through a smartphone app. The rollout of this technology is ongoing, and while it does not replace the physical license just yet, it signals the direction in which things are heading. Understanding how digital licenses will work and what legal standing they will have is something drivers will need to stay on top of as this technology becomes more widely available. There is also the matter of driving license rules as they relate to electric vehicles and the growing number of vehicle categories on the road. As electric vehicles become more common and new categories of vehicles emerge, including certain electric cargo bikes, e-scooters in trial areas, and autonomous vehicles in testing phases, the question of what license you need to operate different types of vehicles is becoming more complex. The DVLA has been updating its guidance on this, and drivers who plan to use any kind of vehicle that sits at the boundary between traditional categories should check the current rules carefully before getting behind the wheel or onto the seat. For professional drivers, particularly those holding licenses for large goods vehicles and passenger-carrying vehicles, the changes are perhaps even more consequential. The rules around driver hours, medical requirements, and periodic license renewal are stricter for professional license holders, and recent updates have tightened these requirements further. If you drive commercially, staying current with these rules is not just a legal obligation but a professional one, and the consequences of non-compliance can include losing your livelihood as well as your license. One thing that ties all of these changes together is the theme of increased responsibility on the individual driver. The government and the DVLA are placing more of the burden of awareness and compliance on drivers themselves. This means you cannot rely on being automatically notified of every change that affects you. You need to actively stay informed, check the DVLA website regularly, understand your obligations around medical conditions, know your point thresholds, and keep track of any changes that apply to your specific license category or situation. The road safety agenda in the UK is becoming more proactive and more data-driven. Technology is playing a larger role in enforcement, with more cameras, more automatic number plate recognition systems, and increasing use of data to identify patterns of dangerous or non-compliant driving. This is the environment in which UK drivers are now operating, and it requires a higher level of personal responsibility and awareness than ever before. The bottom line is this: the UK driving license landscape is changing rapidly and in meaningful ways. Whether it is medical reporting requirements, graduated license restrictions for new drivers, updated rules for older drivers, tighter mobile phone laws, changes for foreign license holders, or the coming wave of digital licensing, there is a lot to keep track of. Ignorance of these rules is not a defense. The penalties for non-compliance are serious and in many cases life-changing. If you take one thing away from everything covered here, let it be this. Make it your business to know the rules that apply to your specific situation, check in regularly with official DVLA guidance, and never assume that the rules you learned when you first got your license are still the rules in place today. The roads are changing, the laws are changing, and staying informed is one of the most responsible things you can do as a driver. If you found this video helpful and want to stay up to date on everything that matters for drivers in the UK, please subscribe to my channel. There is a lot more content coming that will help you navigate the rules, stay safe, and keep your license clean. Hit the subscribe button and make sure you never miss an update from my channel.